Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show today. This is Night Owls, and we're going to be talking a little bit on inclusion today, and you'll see that because I have a general theme I want to get to today, but I'll save that for a second. Of course, I want to say hello to all you guys who are coming here joining us, and hoping that you'll hit that share button, and so we can get more people up in here to join us for that. But also to say hello to Thundero. Hey, dude, how you doing? He's
Zero
been
complaints.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, he's been having some mic
Zero
problems.
complaints.
Zero
Yeah, I
complaints.
know what it is. Hang on, I'll fix it right now.
He's got to fix it right now.
Uh
The unfortunate thing is, you know how I said that we had a couple sunny days here recently? It lied to me. It's
oh.
dark as pitch cloth outside, dude. It's freaking 9 a.m. in the morning, and I have to use lights in the house. That's how
I
dark it
like
is.
that. I like that reference, pitch cloth. That's good.
Well, it's a black object, a black stuff. But nevertheless, but I got a nice hot cup of coffee, my cowboy coffee, and I'm sitting here talking to a friend. So friends, indeed. So I'm all good. Yeah, my wife doesn't. She doesn't care for getting involved with the cowboy coffee. She doesn't seem to be able to do it right. I don't know why. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. But Oh well, she's got all her fancy equipment, so she can have that. Enjoy. But you're not a coffee
White
person anyway,
coffee.
so yeah,
No, I don't drink. I don't drink that black tar nonsense.
yeah.
It just I don't understand why people drink something they don't like.
I do like it. I like it.
Yeah, you do
I
now, but when you first drank it, did you like it?
I was indifferent. Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly. Kind
But
of like beer.
yeah,
When I say beer, I mean bad beer. I don't mean good beer. But most beer tastes like swill, and
it's
everybody
shit.
knows it,
Yeah,
but they still drink it.
yeah, that's true. No, it's true. But the thing is, I can adapt and enjoy coffee much quicker than I can beer, unless I get some really good German beer or a Belgian beer or something like that. But that's
Yes,
not easy to do, right? Especially
it's
where I
become
am.
a little bit easier. Not well, yeah, maybe not there, but here because of the home brewing that went on, the big home brewing like movement,
Yeah.
where people were making their own and stuff. So now you can get all sorts of different, crazy different kinds of beer. But I'm talking like the big brands.
Yeah.
They all taste horrible, and everybody knows it, but everybody pretends like, oh, I love it so. No, you don't.
No, you
You
don't.
do
That's
not.
not the point of it, though. Beer is about, getting a little warm around your friends and relaxing. That's what it is. It's not
Yes.
about the taste. I get that. But I do enjoy coffee now, if you make it right. Coffee is, well, it's like beer, but I think less finicky. You can find a good cup of coffee a lot easier than you can find a good beer, I think. But it is
Oh,
cool
yeah,
you guys went through
absolutely.
that renaissance, though. That is neat.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I don't drink, but it is pretty nice. It's pretty neat that there's been like a because in Europe you could get all kinds of different beers, right? All kinds of
Oh, yeah.
drafts and
Oh, yeah.
malts and everything, and that just wasn't really a thing here, except for like localized markets. But it really spread all over the place now, and now you can get all sorts of different stuff if you're so inclined, which I appreciate. I think one of the problems that America has had culturally is we've dominated the culture for so long, and two, we're isolated
Hmm. Hmm.
and insulated from
Ooh.
positive forces that could actually make things a little bit better. Like I think that's a good example of it, right? There are cases where you can share your cultural norms or whatever you want to call it, cultural rituals, and it actually turns out for the better. It usually does, I would say. So I think that's just one example of you know. I'm going to say this: it's an example of globalization working the way
Yeah.
it should work.
Yeah, yeah. What's that? What's that word that everyone seems to be all triggered by? Gentrification.
Yes,
Yeah, I kind of like it.
making
It's a good thing.
making things better. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But we got Roger. We got in here. We got Dave. We got Bob. We got Elrod as well. Welcome everybody. Nice to have you in here. They're saying Japan doesn't have daylight savings. So savings doesn't start until November what 9th or 7th or something like that this year. But no,
Coming.
we don't have that. We don't have that. And I didn't mean it's black as pitch cloth because it's of daylight savings. It's storming. bad
Dark
weather is what
storm
I meant. I
clouds.
wasn't I
Yeah.
wasn't clear, I guess. Um, and Roger says, Chester, what's the situation with Taiwan, brother? Should I answer that question? Um,
Nothing good. That's the situation.
no. Well, here's the thing. Japan finally woke up. I have a feeling they knew it anyway. They just try not to talk about it. But Japan has finally come to the realization that if China attacks into Taiwan, they need to attack all the way through Okinawa and Japan. They
Yeah.
need to take all of it. Otherwise, it would be a complete failure. So that's what China is planning. Duh. And so Japan is 100% on board, and now you have Japan speaking out strongly against China, which is not something you see here. They usually try to just kind of stay under the weather, right? But
Yes.
no, they're sticking their head up now and speaking because they understand that's the reality, and they're standing staunchly behind Taiwan. So what will happen, I'm not sure. China is certainly been raging up those war wagons for damn sure. The drums are going, and they're doing everything they can to pump the people up in that direction.
Well, the
So
other
we'll see.
problem China has is they have to keep expanding
They
because
do,
their economy's a mess.
yeah.
So if they don't, they will collapse within 20 years. So, and they know that. They're fully aware of their situation. And their plan is to incrementally expand in the Chinese Sea as much as possible
Right.
and take what they consider their land back. That's what Hong Kong was about, and that's what Taiwan's about, and that's what
And
Japan would
Japan.
be about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's their plan. The problem is if that doesn't work, and it's not going to, because I think Japan could take them, at least can drive them off.
Yeah.
Um, they don't have anywhere else to expand to on the continent
No.
without running into Russia or India or the Middle East. So they could expand into the Middle East, I guess, like through Iran, but I don't think that's an easy fight for anybody. That's why we haven't tried it. So
True. Yeah, but they
I
don't
don't know.
know
I
that.
think they're running out of room. They could go Southeast Asia, into the
Mhm.
peninsula, but again, that's not a place anybody wins. Like there's no good way to fight a war there, and
It is
everybody
wide.
knows it.
That is true. But I mean, of course, they've gotten some big gains in Afghanistan. Africa, they own a
Yes.
lot of it.
Yep.
They have been bullying Southeast Asia, particularly Vietnam. They've been bullying the hell out of Australia. And yes, curious, China is asshole. That's right. But the situation with it though is, where do they go? That is fair, and I don't think they can win, which is why I think that they don't want to pull the trigger. They just want to kind of isolate the Chinese people and make them intensely xenophobic, so that they can shut the border and control stuff. Of course, one of the funny things for me, of course, not funny, but the ironic things, I guess, or I don't know. Well, we'll think of a good adjective shortly. But is Korea, because Korea is sitting there, grinning like the Cheshire Cat, thinking that they're all in good straits with the Chinese, not realizing if China were actually successful in taking the transistor and all the other aspects of making computer parts, which Taiwan and Japan absolutely dominate, right? Which is what
Yes.
they want, right? What makes you think, Korea, that you're not next?
Oh, they absolutely are next.
They are, but they act like
Uh,
they're not. But it is a situation, Roger, and it is something we're all paying very close attention to here, to be sure.
I
I
think what's
Yeah,
going to end up happening is it won't lead to a war. Thankfully, I think what we'll get here, at least not like a full on World War II style war. We'll get some proxy fighting in satellites, probably not even in Taiwan, because the navies will keep that from happening. Um, and maybe even in Africa between allied
yeah,
states, because it's a perfect place to do it because nobody really cares, just the truth. Um, and then eventually China will make some deal and they'll calm down. But they're just surrounded. And they've done it to themselves with their expansion. They were surrounded by mostly friendly countries and they keep gobbling them up, so or at least non antagonistic. And now they're surrounded by nothing but. I mean, they have Russia to their north, but imagine if anything were to go sideways with their alliance, Russia would instantly be antagonistic to them, and they know that.
Well, they already are,
So
really, to be
yeah, I mean,
fair.
in reality, they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
China's in a bad spot. Now, they've been in bad spots before and found a way to pull themselves through it, so they may very well. I think mostly it's saber rattling. I don't think they
I think
actually
so
are
too.
going to attempt to land in Taiwan. They might, but I think they lose. I think Taiwan will push them back, and then the Japanese will reinforce, and that'll be it. It'll be locked down, and then they'll lose their ability to go through the strait, and then their trade will suffer,
Well,
and China will suffer even more.
the actual solution to the problem, and I don't think they'll do it, but it would be the easiest solution. Many of you probably don't realize that Taiwan used to be part of Japan, not
Yeah,
that long ago, really, right? What would behoove Taiwan is to become part of Japan, come up with some deal where they become part of the Japanese nation in a kind of a Samoa type of way, maybe. And what that
really
would
good, baby.
do, that would force the Americans' hands in
Have
defending
you?
Taiwan, right?
Yes, yes.
And they've done it before. I mean, some of the best allies in Asia that Japan has is Taiwan. They get along really well because Japan didn't come in there and just browbeat them like they did other places. They actually helped them quite a bit. You got to keep in mind that not that long ago, Taiwan was a place where if you wanted to get married, you had to present the head of an enemy to your prospective bride. Yeah.
Can't say I hate it.
Yeah,
Can't say I
cannibalism and
hate it.
things like that. It was pretty bad. The Japanese came and stopped all that, gave them all kind of modern things, electricity and all that kind of stuff. So Taiwan is probably an example of a country that has grown and developed more radically than anybody else. I mean, because people don't really understand how primitive Taiwan was. Korea used to be just short times ago, not a long time. We got to understand when the Americans came in and we had our proxy war with the Soviets in Korea, which is what that war was. They were primitive as shit, dude. The Koreans sitting right next to a burgeoning powerhouse in Japan and China, which was a waning empire, right? But there they were, this primitive thing in Taiwan as well. Well, we'll see how it works out, but it is interesting times, my friend. Let's see.
If I had to just fantasy strategize of what will happen, I think the CCP's done.
That
I
would be
think the
nice.
world, the owners of the world are done with them. They've got what they needed from them, which was a model for what they want for the whole world. So I think very not, and by very soon I mean a couple decades probably.
Mhm.
Uh, they'll be gone as the power in China. They'll just not be there, and a different form of China will take its place.
Yeah.
And it pretty much has already happened in all but name. And I think that's what we'll see happen in China. I'm not saying it's going to be a better place to live or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. They're still going to be authoritarian pricks. They're just not going to be China. They're not going to be the CCP.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
and then that will lead to more conflict down the line because this new version of China won't be as beholden to the banksters that run the world.
Right. Well, I'd like to see China fall into its five constituent parts. That's what I'd like to see happen because I think it'd be more vibrant and more successful that way, separated than it is
Yeah,
together. Because if you look at their history, if you're going to look at Chinese history, they they can't survive without an enormous slave population, and that's essentially what the people are. But if you broke it into smaller pieces and let those five different distinct cultures thrive unto themselves, they could be it could be interesting. But well, who knows? We'll see. This might not even play out in our lifetime, dude. I mean, it's possible, right? But anyway, let me see what else we got in here before we move on. Let's see. Caffeine is life. Bob says he's not wrong. If they put caffeine in a beer, I'll switch. Until then, fair enough. Elrod says, Thundero, black tar nonsense goes straight to the veins. It does. It's true. Is Japan prepared for war? Roger asks. Yes and no. Um, Technologically, they are prepared. Psychologically, no. They're not. But because of the nature of Japanese culture, they would be in an instant, though.
yep.
Because one of the reasons why this strange amalgam of capitalism and socialism works here in Japan is because the Japanese do exactly what they're told to do without question. That's why it works. That's why it doesn't. They don't need men on the street with guns to force you, right? So it just functions that way. So even though they're kind of soft and not non-combative now, that could switch on a dime, in like literally instantly, and you would have a the young men here being militarized. Unfortunately, that means my son would be caught up in it as well. But oh well, it's the way of the world.
I honestly think, and people say, Biden won't defend Taiwan, and he might not. He might be a complete and total Chinese shill. But I think there might be revolts in the military over it. I'll be completely honest at the top. I don't think they're going to let that happen
Well,
because
yeah, that's
Taiwan
another
and
conversation.
Japan are just too close to each other, and everybody knows if they get Taiwan, Japan's next, and it's just not something I think the military brass would be willing to concede.
Right. Well, it must be next. It has to be
Yeah,
next. You don't pull that trigger if you're China and you have any kind of intelligence in your intelligence community, which they do. Just, don't forget the Asians are smarter than the rest of the people on planet on average. Remember this, right? They know that if they pull that trigger, they have to go all the way through to Japan. Otherwise, it won't work, right? So that's the problem that they're dealing with. Anyway, let's see here. Japan is asshole. That's true. Japan has a defense force, but relies on the U.S. for full military forces. My sketchbook says yes and no. They have some pretty capable systems here in Japan, and they are well trained. You got to understand that a Japanese person is kind of like this blank slate, this tabula rasa type of thing. Um, they can be whatever needs to be molded. That's the useful thing and the dangerous thing about the Japanese, really. Bob says, well, Japan can't depend on the U.S. Biden will trip over himself trying to defend his Chinese overlords while simultaneously shitting his adult pampers. We'll see. We'll see. I think Thundera did make a fair point about the military, although they're doing their best to basically, fire and arrest any dissenter in the military right now. It's been that's probably the most hostile and insidious thing that's been going on during the Biden administration. I know there's a lot on that table, but what they've been doing to the military is shocking, dude. Yeah. Let's see here. Yes, they're going to rely with woke USA. Yes, that's right. Okay. My sketchbook says it behooves any first world country to defend Taiwan because 90% of the chips are made there. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. That would give China's economy a huge boost. It's what they want. It is what they want, dude. They want all of the computer hardware. And Taiwan and of course Japan's part of that because Japan is the superior aspect of what Taiwan's done, and good for
the other
Taiwan.
absolutely. The other problem they'll have is they have a very dangerous enemy, and they are enemies. That they make no mistake in India on their
Oh
other
yeah,
side.
Indians
I
can't
think
stand them.
if they make an actual aggressive, really aggressive, like they go in, India's invading them.
Well,
It's just
no,
going to happen
India's
from the back
chomping
door.
at the bit to get at
Yeah,
China actually, and if
yeah,
they pulled that trigger, I think India would join Taiwan. It doesn't matter what they think of Taiwan; they would just take the opportunity to
yeah, yeah.
cross that border. Yeah, yeah, because you got to keep in mind India wants to expand too,
Yes,
right?
they also kind of need to. There's so many damn people.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. But it is interesting, geopolitics. I don't know how we always end up speaking about it here on Night Owls, but fair enough, I guess. I am in a position to have maybe a little bit more information you guys have, because, we'll talk about it, and the West doesn't really care half the time, right? So, but anyway, cool. We'll stay abreast of the situation without question, guys. My sketchbook says mobilize every nerd that is into gaming. Chinese controlling their favorite pastime. Yeah, that's true, but keep in mind if you throw the nerds on some kind of technology where war game type of thing, China would win that, dude. They are mad gamers in China, dude. Mad.
Well, The only problem is we got the Koreans, and that's just all I know is that in a lot of video game championship competitions, they have two different divisions. Often, like the old
Yeah,
StarCraft, they
yeah,
had StarCraft Korea
yeah,
for the Koreans
yeah.
and StarCraft for everybody else because the Koreans were just so much better than
No,
everyone.
you're right.
Just
You're right. But the problem with that is we don't have Korea, dude.
well,
Korea would literally dance in the streets if Japan was on fire. They would literally dance in the streets. The Koreans are children. This is you just don't understand it. It's like do you know how in the West we get to deal with the French, right?
yeah,
And
no,
I've had French friends, and that's fine. But the French can be the most childish, uh,
killers.
unbearable people to deal with when they get their heels dug in. And the Koreans are exactly the same. The Koreans are the French of Asia, and that's a problem, right? Because when you get people like that, they'll do stupid things, and in the end, burns their own house down just to get at you, right? And that's kind of the problem with Korea. So don't put Korea in the mix of being on the Allied side. I wouldn't do that because I don't think they're our friends at all, dude. I really don't think they are. Yeah, you'd have to live over here to understand the dynamic. But yeah, no, there's the one of the I've said it before, but the thing to understand the Japanese are aloof and hard headed. The Chinese always lie,
Yeah,
always,
every
and
time.
the Koreans are children.
If
That's
if
what you need to understand about Asia. That's the simplest way I can sum it up, because it
if
really
the
does.
Chinese were telling me the sky is blue and clouds are white, I would not believe them because they're
They
probably
lie.
lying somehow.
Yeah,
Yes.
they lie constantly. And this isn't just the CCP. This is the
Well,
culture. Because
yes.
they look at it different than we do. We look at it we look at things as in honor in interaction, right? This is an important that you have your own personal integrity, right? But for them, if they lie to you and you fall for it, you're a dumbass.
Yeah.
And that's how they see it. They really do see it that way. If you get taken as a fool, well, then you're a fool. They're not to blame. They didn't do anything wrong. You're the fool. And that is Chinese culture in one little nutshell. It really, really is.
It's
There's,
it can
yeah,
be summed up in one little phrase. They put face before truth, meaning all they care about is how they look or how they can make you look.
yeah,
They don't care if what they said is true or not, if it makes you look bad and work, if it works, right? And that's the opposite of what our culture used to be anyway, what it was based on, and I think largely what the Japanese was based on when they had a more martial culture, because you kind of have to be.
yeah.
We put face or put truth before face, meaning integrity and being correct in the way you deal with people is more important than looking good. And that is a complete inverse. And that's why a lot of people in the West just don't understand that you cannot trust the Chinese. This is one of the reasons why Trump was actually pretty good in dealing with them, is because he understands them.
Mm.
You can't trust them at all. They're going to lie to you
Well,
about everything, even things that don't matter. They're going to lie to you about just because they can.
Well, no, it's true. Face is important in every culture, but we all understand how Asians are about face. They're a
Yes.
little different than we are. But the easiest way to understand it is the Japanese have an internal perception of it, and the Chinese have an external perception of it.
Ooh, that's
And
good.
that
Yeah.
really sums it up right there. So the Japanese, and it's really weird too. If you study Asian history, which I kind of did because I live here, it wasn't something I knew much about before. But the Japanese are weird. They're
Yeah.
not normal for Asia. And in the end, it turned out to be a good thing once they, kind of get involved in being part of the, you know, the first world thinking. Worked out just fine. But they are different. I don't know why they're different, but they are. So anyway,
I agree.
yeah. Goodness, China is a racist. That's right, my sketchbook. They
Yeah,
have
and
all
they're fine with it, by the way.
They
They've
don't
made
care.
peace with who
Yeah,
they
they
are
don't
a
give a
long time ago.
shit what you think. Yeah, that is a good thing about Asia. Actually, they really don't care what you think, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
Uh,
All of
we
it.
Nice Sketchbook says we have the Koreans, Japanese, and East Europeans. Yeah, no, you can find analogs of the Japanese in Europe. They're called Germans.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's why they
shocking
like
how
each other so
yeah
much.
they get along
Why
well because they're so similar in their thinking. Yeah, but
Hitler used to call them honorary Aryans for a reason because they were so similar into what he idealized the Aryans as, and they behaved with a very similar mindset to the Germans.
yeah, and it's unfortunate too because Aryan is not a race; it's a group.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
But whatever. Here's the thing that's probably going to piss you off though. If I want to
Oh,
find an analog of the Chinese in the West, it's America.
yeah, we're pretty good at lying.
It's not
Uh,
even just the psychological similarities. It's the yeah, we're very similar.
it's probably true. It's a pretty good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. But whatever. Anyway, can we do? I have some news. Can
Let's
we
do
do
it.
that? Let's do that. We spent 30
Let's do
minutes on
it.
that shit. Awesome. But it is important though. It is important what's going on because if China does pull that trigger, I really don't think they will. I agree with Undero, but if they do pull that trigger, it's going to light off shit, dude, in a hard ass
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
All over. It's going to flow to the west quickly. So, I hope it doesn't. But interesting times, my friends. Definitely today. Well, America has got its own problems, doesn't it? But just keep this in mind. As much as we get pissed off, and as much as we want to pick up that gun and go and do whatever needs to be done, just remember this: those bankers who have been kind of pushing this narrative for a good century and a half, they want America to fall in civil war. That's exactly what they want. So just keep that in
I
mind.
want, and I hope I've been clear. What I want is America to balkanize. I want a national divorce.
Yeah, no, I agree
Uh,
with that. Yeah,
I want, and I think it's the only way to avoid a long, protracted civil war. It'll probably cause, friction and some violence, but that's different than an actual all-out war.
it is. It is.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's the only way to avoid it at this point. Where America's three or four countries, three or four nations with totally different ideals living together because we have to,
Yeah, I
and it
agree.
can't last forever.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's get into this. So today, as you guys know, I like to start with board games, but I want to start with a board game today a tabletop game that I haven't really talked much about, which you would think is weird because it's my favorite. D&D, role-playing, tabletop role-playing. And of course, I know I'm a nerd. I get it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I pissed off my sketchbook, blasphemy, Chester. But the thing is, I've been playing D&D since '79. I've enjoyed it. I've made so many friends. I've just had a lot of good memories with it. Now, maybe I'm a bit different than your average gamer nerd in that regard, because a lot of them just kind of stayed in that world and didn't grow up. It's like I've told you guys before that all of my childhood friends are dead now, all of them, and most of them died from misadventure, and they just didn't grow up. And the difference between them and I is the fact that I did. Right, I grew up, and I take care of my business first, my family, my business, then my leisure fun is last. And my what I enjoy as fun hasn't changed. I still enjoy D&D, board gaming, video gaming, comics. I enjoy those things, but it is not the center of my life. It is the relaxation of my life, and a lot of people haven't grown up for that. But so I understand the basement nerd jokes about D&D. However, what I want to talk about today has more to do with the word inclusion. You saw I put it in the title today. And and I want to talk about this because over the past decade, D&D has been changing quite a bit. There's been quite a bit of wokeness in it, and this is not unique. Every single solitary IP or idea or thing that is male oriented has been infiltrated. Everything, we know this, and we push back a bit against it. We laugh about it. We complain about it. Et cetera, et cetera. But when we look at the heart of the problem, I think it comes down to this, and I'm curious why it has gotten to this. Because today I was watching a video from AJ Pickett. Now, AJ Pickett, he does a lot of D&D videos, hundreds of them, in-depth information. If you wanted to get into D&D and understand exactly what the cosmology, the universe of D&D is, go watch his videos. The guy's great. He puts a lot of hard work in, and I appreciate him. However, today in the video, I've heard him say these things before, but today in the video, he was talking about how in the past 10 years, things have changed with D&D because they've been changing D&D to appeal to women more. And of course, women want different things than men want. So they're changing to appeal to the women, and he sees that as a good thing. And fair enough, that's his opinion. But the problem with it is, why in the West? Because understand, I've been other places in the world other than the West, and this is not true of women in those places. This is a Western phenomena. It's not a female phenomena. But my question is, or the point I'm making is this: why do Western women find it necessary to be involved in every little thing? Why? They they just can't they can't stand not being involved. And whereas where I disagree with AJ is, if you want to have women in role playing, great, they're always welcome. They've never not been welcome. But why should men have to change what they like and what they want to do just to accommodate women? If they want to join, can't they just be part of what we're doing? Why do we always have to change everything for women? Why is that the case? Women have things that they do that men aren't involved with in general, and we have no problem with it. Why do
Yep.
Western women just desperately seem to need to have their fingers in every little teeny thing, and men are not allowed to do anything without their supervision? Because that's what it feels like. And understand, I'm specifically saying Western women, and of course it's not all, so fuck off before you even get into that. But I'm saying that other women in the world don't think this way and don't act like that. So why is it that Western women cannot, are just beside themselves if they're not involved in every little thing, and that we have to adapt ourselves to them, not the other way around? Why is that so? Now, as you can tell, I
They,
disagree with AJ completely on this,
yeah.
because fuck that, dude. This is our game. This is a male game. It's built the way it is, and we're enjoying it. If women want to join, fine, come on in. But no, we're not changing it, AJ. And of course, they have been changing it. But the good thing about tabletop role playing is you can do whatever you want with it. That's the good thing.
Which that right there is the point, right? You can do whatever the fuck you want with it, right? You
Yeah.
could use just D&D rules, basic rules, and then make up all your own lore for everything else if you wanted to. Everything else.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to make it so, I think recently they started changing that there's no actual evil characters by nature, which is ridiculous.
Which is switching for the women. This is one of the
Yes.
changes for women. And
Well, in your
yeah,
game, you could just make that the rule. There's no evil characters by default.
that's right.
Why are you evil? You have to explain to me what made you evil, or why, or do it in game. Right? Be an evil character. Um, it's what it really is. Is it the reason why I think it's so insulting is because it's very pedantic and dishonest. It's dishonest to say that D&D, and I don't even like D&D, but it's dishonest to say that any of this stuff needs to change to include the women when that isn't true. If women want to play it, literally no one is stopping them.
No one ever
No
has.
one.
Yeah.
No one ever has. It's not like there's a bunch of men going around like, "No, bitch!" Just start hitting them with things when they try and play D&D.
Never.
Maybe a couple hundred years ago, but not in the last century.
Not even. Don't even buy into that damn
I know.
that propaganda shit, dude. It's never been that way.
And not in the West, especially. It's preposterous. It's offensive, and it should be offensive. People got to start being okay with being upset when things encroach on their territory, because they're not doing it out of good faith. They're doing it to effectively ruin what you like out of spite.
It is,
and they know that's what they're doing.
Clear.
That they know exactly that's what they're doing. That's why they get all giddy when you get angry about it. They don't see when when they're not intent. If you want to make somebody angry, if you want to make somebody upset, when you succeed in this, it makes you happy. When you don't, you don't get happy at people being angry at you. You get concerned. The reason that they behave the way they do when gamers of all different types lash back at these kind of things and say this is dumb, we don't want this, it's unnecessary, blah 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 blah. The reason why they act all aloof or they start calling you names and things and don't act out in rage or out in like contrition is because this is exactly what they want you to do, because they're just trying to hurt you. That's what these people are doing. They understand what they're doing, and stop giving them the benefit of the doubt that maybe it's just a misunderstanding. It's not. It's not. They're doing it on purpose because they know it will annoy you.
Yeah. And AJ's doing the same thing I've seen with Nerdocracy and group, people like that. They've getting a little taste of I think money and involvement from WotC, and therefore they just instantly toe the line. I think what's going on because the problem is at the thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way and got me on this thing today was that AJ basically was trying to shame men for not wanting to change their thing for women. He did. And now I'm not saying you shouldn't go watch AJ stuff. I think you should. He most 99.9% of all his videos are amazingly useful if you're into D&D. I'm not saying that, but I do find it interesting that he's willing to throw his entire you know group, his entire gamer group, just under the table for some, oh, look, I virtue signaled the right way. That seems very counterintuitive to me.
Yeah.
And we all know, I'm asking a hypothetical that we know the answer to. Narcissism is the key of it, of course. But it's just that's the core of the problem. This kind of narcissism is going on, and I know it's not all women, but there's enough of them that are the loudest voices being heard, and it's affecting us across the board because these people who are making all the noise, they're also not very smart. They're really not, and they're just playing the useful fool for the idiots who want to use them. And unfortunately, even though it would be considered an aside of the main goal, all of these male hobbies have been absolutely obliterated. And D&D is part of it, because what do women want? They don't want combat and statistics and stuff. They want narrative, right? And a lot of things are going into that. And I'm going to show you some examples of that today. But nevertheless, it is particularly poignant for me because D&D has always been so close to my heart. But it's what the future is because coming up here, they're going to be doing some adjustments to D&D, and it's not going to get better. Now Bill had said something the other day, Argos Creations, that kind of lies into this. This is why you're seeing such a big push for so many people going back to first edition, basic edition, second edition, even third edition. They're abandoning WotC and their new thing
Yes.
for the old thing, and that's the great thing about D&D. You can do that quite easily. Whereas you might not want to go back and play that 16-bit game or that 8-bit game because it looks like shit. You can do that with D&D. You can go back to 8-bit D&D, no problem. Easy, right? And it's not just D&D. It's all the whole role-playing market that D&D created, right? But anyway, I'll move on from this. But I see a lot of things here in the chat. Bob says because Western society have decided to declare war on men, it seems so. They've taken every measure to decimate male culture and stature in society. Can I be a teacher for half a second? May I?
Sure.
Yeah, it irritates the shit out of me every time someone uses the word decimate. Decimate means to reduce by 10%, guys. It's an old Roman military thing they used to do for discipline.
I wasn't expecting the English teacher part. I was expecting history, but okay.
Okay.
Oh
I'm
shit.
sorry, Bob. Love you. Let's see. Roger says, "This is a man's world, damn it, and we love our orgies, so deal with it." Now, well, I don't know
That's
about
right.
orgies much.
That's right.
I don't like my dick being near other dicks. So I'm sorry about that. Anyway,
Chester, it's still an orgy if there's 5 women and 1 man. I
that's
mean,
fair. That is fair. That's fair. Yeah. It plays into their incessant desire to weaken men. Yeah, no, but I'm saying this is a Western woman thing. This is not something that's going on elsewhere, guys. It's really not. Dumbs the name says no alignments. Sounds like they're trying to blur the lines between what's good and what's evil. Which is evil? Yes, it is. Dumbs the name, and we see it in our cinema as well. The bad guy's always being presented as the good guy. Venom, perfect example. Bob says, I don't give an F what they say. Alignment will always matter. Race will always will have different stats. Orcs and Drow will always be evil in my game. Yeah, and you have earlier editions to do that with. And you can even take fifth edition, do whatever hell you want with it. That's a good thing. It's just unfortunate as we go into the future here, D&D is not on our side anymore. They're not. It's not something that you can continue to buy products and be involved with. Unfortunately, that's the sad thing. But we still can enjoy our game, though, right?
the funny thing to me is, in a lot of fantasy, including Lord of the Rings, orcs are not necessarily inherently evil. There's even stories, I think it's in the Silmarillion, of what was effectively a good orc. And
Hmm.
so that means is when you're in a fantasy setting, there really aren't rules. I mean, you could kind of do what you want. You could potentially make an orc who somehow finds as redemptive of a path as an orc can.
Hmm.
That could be cool. That could be fun to play.
Well,
There's just so many different ways you could do it, and the fact that they keep having to change base things and say, no, these are the rules now. You have to play this way. Well, that's preposterous. It's a role playing game, guys.
right. Well,
There technically are no rules, if you want to be completely
that's
honest.
true. And to follow up on that, in D&D, there are two kinds of orcs.
Yeah,
There are orcs that were created by magic, and they are chaotic and murderous by nature because that's what they were created for. They're not in charge of their alignment or their thinking, simply because they were created for this, and they just are this plague that exists. They're not even a culture; they're just a plague that has to be dealt with, but they are something created by magic. Then you have gray orcs, which come from a different world. We're talking about Forgotten Realms here, which is the main setting, right? And they're more like Native Americans. They're neutral. They will destroy their enemies. They will steal from others. They will do all those kind of raiding and things. But they're not evil per se. They're just a more primitive culture that is a marauding based culture. So even D&D itself dealt with this problem decades ago, right?
yeah.
The orcs, the two kind of orcs, right? And the green ones are just a chaotic plague. They're not a culture whatsoever.
It's
But
this dumb idea that for some reason a lot of these see if you want to take it from another part of the problem is when you have capitalism that decides it needs to be a moral arbiter. And by capitalism, I just mean business.
yeah,
Capitalism itself is neutral; it's a tool. But the people who represent capitalism, I think is a better way to put it, businesses, they decide that they have to have moral integrity in things that don't matter, right? Things that largely don't matter to their purview, which is business. And that's what you have here. So this is why you see all these people. Like another good example is Blizzard, right? Blizzard's in trouble with their big lawsuits, and the
mhm,
people are, done with the company over it, and because their games just suck lately.
yeah.
Um, but they're going on this big crusade to desexify everything. Like even just passive, just cleavage and stuff like that has to go. You can't have any kind of sexuality. Has to all be sanitized
Well,
and
unless it's
neutered.
male
Oh,
nudity,
right,
and
then
that's
men
fine.
can walk around as naked as they'd like.
Sure, yeah.
It's it's this idea that companies have to be a moral force. Companies shouldn't be compelled or coerced or obliged to be moral. And in fact, you really don't want to live in the world where people who have a profit motive now are moral enforcers.
Yeah, well, they've been
Because
hijacked, dude. Yeah.
whoever pays them the most will decide what those morals are.
Well, it's
That's not what you want.
Yeah, it's an interesting test. Will capitalism win out in the end? That's the question,
Yeah.
right? And nevertheless, you know, this is what we got going forward, and we see it in many other things too. It's not just you guys know this already, but a good example I think is like She-Hulk, right? And
Yeah.
She-Hulk was a character who is heroic. She's a typical superhero. She's just female, right? But the new iteration of She-Hulk, which is the one you're going to get in the Disney Plus series, she likes to watch cooking shows, and she's all about her feelings, and it's a very female take on She-Hulk. Now you're saying, well, She-Hulk's female. Why wouldn't that be best? Because she's not female, is she? She is
Yeah.
a male fantasy of a female because it's comic books, right? And an actual female with that type of thinking would be the worst hero ever because they would never get out of their own way to actually be heroic. So, but we see it everywhere. Nevertheless, let's move on. But I was a little bit disappointed in AJ this morning. I really was. Because it's one thing for you to have that opinion, that's fine. But to then try to shame men into getting on board with their game literally being taken away and changed to make women happy? When has the reverse ever happened? Right?
And the worst part about it is it'll never work because that's not what they're about. They don't want to play this game. If they did, they'd play it.
Yeah,
Simple as that. Just like a little boy. If he wants to play with Barbie dolls real bad, he's going to play with them.
he is.
Doesn't matter if they're four girls, quote unquote. He's going to do what he wants to do if he wants to do it enough, unless somebody physically stops him.
That's right.
And
Like the father.
yes, the fathers. But well, I used to play with them, but see how I played with them is they were Amazons for my other guys, and so my other guys were fighting the Amazons. That's how I played with
No,
them.
that's fair. That is the way to do that, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on. Go ahead.
Crunchyroll reveals first look at Shenmue, the animation, and announces premiere date for Blade Runner Black Lotus.
Okay. Now I've never played Shenmue. I never
Yeah.
played it. I know it's a bit of a phenomena. A lot of people love it. Awesome. I know there was a bit of a debacle with all the Kickstarter stuff and all the money it was made, and then what was presented wasn't great. So I understand the whole Shenmue saga, right? But they are making Crunchyroll, who was bought up, weren't they? We talked about that, didn't we? Didn't someone buy them, or they bought something? I thought
I think they
Funimation bought
were,
everything.
yeah, they're merging up.
Yeah, yeah.
They're doing some
Um,
merging.
this article here talks more about Blade Runner Black Lotus than it does Shenmue. But the Blade Runner Black Lotus is upcoming series that's going to be coming out of Crunchyroll here, which could be cool. And basically, the Black Lotus is on some girl, of course, who wakes up and she only thinks she knows about herself is she's got a Black Lotus tattoo. All right, fine. This has been being done in collaboration with Adult Swim Productions, so I know that'll make a lot of people happy. And so there you go. There's your girl and her something's going on. She got to figure out who she is and all that kind of yada yada yada. And they're using this ugly CG animation. It looks like. But that doesn't mean it won't be good. There were some of those animations that came out for the part two of Blade Runner movie, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy as much. However, those little animation shorts that are filling the space between the two stories, I enjoyed them. Did you?
No, I
You
didn't.
didn't?
I don't. Actually, I don't know if I ever saw him. Now that I think about it,
I
did
watched
I
them.
see him?
I liked them.
I don't think I saw him.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely something here, and that's some of these universes, some of these IPs. Telling other stories doesn't translate well, right? Like doing Alien without Ripley, it just doesn't work as well, does it? However, Blade Runner without Harrison Ford, you can definitely do. There's all that you can just tell stories in this world, and it is ironic, I know, that Blade Runner and Alien are in the same universe, just separated by time. I understand that. But the general concept of it, I don't have a problem with. I don't like this kind of CG very much, but I guess that's just personal taste.
Yeah,
You know,
I disagree with that. I actually do. I think Blade Runner was. I didn't even like the new movie, to be honest with
I
you.
loved it. Yeah,
Uh, I think, and it's not that I dislike it as a movie. I think it's fine. I just don't like adding. I think Blade Runner was a great one and done,
it could have
and
been. Yeah, yeah,
it should have been a great one and done. And that was one of the big charming things about it is that they never did another one, and it took them 25 years, whatever it was, to do another one. Um, I just don't. I don't know. It's not that the world that they built isn't awesome. It is. I just the problem is what happens is all these things get made, and they dilute rather the original in some way or another, where they make a change to the lore, whether they meant to or not. A lot of times it's accidental because they're dumb. And now you have to look back at the other thing either lesser or in a different way, and it's just that to me can ruin it. Yeah, it could. It very well could make it better. Absolutely, there's a chance of that.
yeah.
But it's like a gamble. It's like, do I want to take the risk of them making it better, or do I want to take the risk of them making it worse? And historically, recently, what's most likely?
Right. No,
They're
that's
going
true.
to make it
And
worse.
and we certainly got to the point now you can't get excited and anticipate. You have to wait for reviews to come out. You can't
Yeah.
just go and buy stuff or get involved. You have to kind of look at the review now. That's unfortunate. They've taken a lot of the excitement away by their nonsense. And of course, it's another female character, which is all we seem to get these days. But whatever. It doesn't mean it won't be good. The thing I liked about the second Blade Runner and the animated shorts in the middle is the fact that they wrapped up the first story very neatly and they set it up for just moving forward in the universe just itself. I thought they did a good job with that. They answered the question: was Harrison Ford's character Decker was he a replicant? Yes, he is. And they did the whole little thing. They tightened it up nice, and I enjoyed it. But I enjoy that slow paced stuff. I think Villeneuve, the director who's going to be doing the new Dune, I thought he did a good job. He's got a beautiful cinematography look, and he unlike J.J. Abrams, who's also has beautiful cinematography, he can actually tell a story. Um, I think I'm worried about Dune, although people keep telling me, as far as reviewers, that it's not woke. I don't believe it because when in the same breath that they say it's not woke, they keep mentioning woke stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to wait for that to come out and make those decisions. However, so you have this story here. Okay, I know Adult Swim is very popular, and then the Shenmue thing. Of course, Shenmue. This story is it's the plot of every kung fu movie you've ever seen, just set in modern time, right? You have your dad's dojo, family's dojo. Some enemy comes in and kills dad, and you have to seek revenge. It's how many damn kung fu movies start out like that? And this one just throws in a little bit of supernatural as well. That's Shenmue. That's the whole thing. And he travels all over Asia in search of the killers of his dad, and he gets deeper and deeper into this this kind of supernatural world and this that's going on. So that's Shenmue. If you enjoyed it, awesome. This series could be neat. I like the art. Look at the art. Looks good. Looks
Yeah.
better than the game does. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Well,
I don't mind it. It looks pretty good. So I'll probably check it out. I mean, I'm not adverse to it. I just wasn't really into it. It was no particular reason why. But the funny thing is, it's very odd where I ended up because I certainly enjoyed all the kung fu movies when I was a kid and ninja theater, kung fu theater, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, etc., etc. I even enjoy some of the later stuff like Chow Yun Fat and the gung fu stuff. But I've never been a person who's absolutely enamored with Asia, right? I'm not. I'm much more of much more like my personal heritage, like the Scandinavian stuff, or even a little bit of the Greek stuff and stuff. But therefore, I don't gravitate toward Asian stuff every time I say, "Ooh, Asian stuff." So it's weird where I ended up, right? Because I'm like the most un-Asian file person you'll ever meet. But oh well, it is what it is. So this could be good news, I guess. This
We
one
will
interested
see.
me though. I think this is interesting to see what they do with this.
We'll see again. The
Yeah.
Wheel of Time. Elaine Tricond, I guess is how you say that. Casting announced, plus new footage shows Moiraine
Moiraine.
Damodred
Mhm.
arriving in the Two Rivers.
Yeah. Now,
All right.
I'm not going to play it. You guys can go watch it yourself. But there are some interesting things. First of all, here is a redhead that's not been race swapped.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's not loud.
I know.
All right.
Weird.
Somebody call the people who run Hollywood right now and tell them. I don't think they know. I don't think they've been informed. A violation of the rules has taken place.
Now, unfortunately, this girl, it has nothing to do with anything, but she is a brown-eyed redhead girl. If I were her, I'd wear green contacts like all the time. But whatever. She's cute though. That's a cute girl, right there. And which is another thing that's not allowed. Cute girls. This older woman here, not a bad looking lady. I mean, she's older, but she's got kind of a stark beauty, but she's not bad. Even this lady right here has a certain beauty to her, right? Um, so what we're seeing in this series is something we haven't seen in a while. Attractive women not being race swapped. They're all the original race that they're supposed to be. Now, I guarantee you there will be some race swapping in there. I guarantee it somewhere. But it's interesting to me, and I wonder why. I think personally what they're doing is really leaning into the same thing with Why the Last Man, right? It looks like that series is going to be all about the ladies, whereas the series was really about the guy and his monkey, right?
Yep.
In the Wheel of Time series, only women, certain women, can use magic. But the story itself is not unbalanced. The men and male and female characters throughout the story is just a story, right? It's not a feminist agenda. That's not what the Wheel of Time is. But I kind of wondering if they're going to do the same thing they did with Y, whereas it's all about the ladies. It's 100% a feminist, female driven storyline. And that's why they didn't race swap it, was simply because they're making a feminist thing anyway. I kind of wonder if that's what's happening. I hope not. I hope it's just being done just straight up, straight like the story, and have fun with it. But I mean, you have to ask these questions these days, and it's sad that you do, but there it is, man. Because they don't allow this shit anymore. A cute redheaded girl, that's not allowed, dude. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're not permitted. You're simply not permitted in Hollywood to have ginger representation,
Yeah, and
especially
there's
not
two of them
attractive
too. There's
gingers.
a ginger guy here too. But
How are they getting away with the diversity police with this show?
I
How
don't
is this
know.
allowed?
No, we'll have to wait and see. It could be just someone just said, "Hey, let's make this," and they just made it. Maybe they're just telling the story. It's hard for us to believe that these days because we've been burned so much. But and we do see some race swapping here in the back. But I don't know. I'm going to wait and see with this one. I have a feeling they're going to pull that wool from around your eyes pretty quick with it. But who knows? You never know. We can't live without hope. We can't. Yeah, that we just can't. That would be victory on their part. Any which way but loose was about a man and his monkey. Left turn, Clyde. Absolutely, Dave. What? That's the best reference of the week. Of no, of the year, Dave. You win. 25 points for Dave. I love those movies. Do you like those Clint Eastwood movies?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That was some of his best movies, and I'd say they're the most underappreciated of
Yeah,
his
no, I
movies.
agree.
They're so funny.
Yeah, they are funny. They're just great fun flicks. If you haven't seen Any Which Way But Loose and whatever the title of the second one was, go watch those. Those are good fun. But this is a cute girl though, dude. Without question, that's an attractive female. And
Sure.
and even her lips are big, a little bit big, but they're not. outrageous like Angelina Jolie. So, pretty girl, pretty girl. Alrighty. We'll have to see what happens with that. Oh my God, dude, they just won't stop. They won't stop.
I can't. I can't now. New Star Wars book to continue to desecrate. That's a good term. Luke Skywalker's character, because that's exactly what they've done.
And they continue.
I can't even. I can't even watch the old Star Wars stuff now. Because it's in my brain. It's like a brain rot that I know where this story goes officially under the canon, and I'm just like I can't watch it. I'm like, nah.
Oh, see, I can disassociate from it. Yeah. But there's a new Star Wars book titled Star Wars Shadow of the Sith, which seemingly showcases Luke Skywalker as a failure as he chases Ochia Bestoon across the galaxy. Of course he is. But here's the thing. Why pick on Luke though? Of all people, I mean, Han Solo is, certainly seems to be a character that would be more fresh meat for them. But why Luke? Why this wide-eyed, no, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid who just wants to go out and see the world, and then he kind of gets thrown into having to do the right thing? Why does Luke need to be destroyed? But they won't let him be. They going after him hard, and it's
Well, they already
sad, dude.
destroyed Han. I mean,
No, they killed
for
him.
people. Well, not only that, they completely destroyed his entire character growth throughout all three of the original trilogy in The Force Awakens. Like, he completely reverted back to a douche, basically, who doesn't care about anybody but himself.
Yeah.
And abandons his wife, doesn't go after his son to try. That's just not. Han wouldn't have done that. The Han in Return of the Jedi would not have done that.
No,
Period.
Not.
That's not what that wouldn't even come into his mind to run away again.
Yeah. No, they definitely went after the male characters hardcore, and of course they said they would. I mean, the Force is female after all.
Yes.
But it continues, and it's like after all the pushback, after all the trouble you had, you're going to keep doing it. And it's like, yeah, we are. So there you go. But they really, really, really want to destroy Luke. And the thing with you mentioned with Han, what I meant was, yeah, they did tear down the character, made him a loser, of course, which all men are losers, I guess.
Apparently.
But at least they just killed him. He's gone. It's done. Luke,
I
they're
think that
dragging this
was
shit, dude.
more to do with Harrison because he wanted Han to die a long time ago, he just didn't want to make the movies, but they threw all kinds of money at him, so he's like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. Harrison Ford is not the greatest ambassador for Star Wars. Just like Patrick Stewart is not a good ambassador for Star Trek. Hey, Booster, what's up, dude?
Hey, how you doing? I was just gonna say it's still very confusing how much Harrison Ford hates that character. I still don't understand why.
I think he's just a grumpy dude.
Popularity, or is he just a grumpy guy? Do you think?
No, he loves Indiana Jones.
I was gonna say, was he bothered by too many nerds, or?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, he doesn't like nerds. Yeah.
He doesn't like nerd culture, and he gets associated with it hard because of Han Solo. And it's a shame because in the original trilogy, I mean, there's no Han Solo. That shit falls apart real fast. He's the charm and the wit of the entire trilogy. Like him and Lando. When Lando shows up,
he's just a hardcore bully back in high school, and all these nerds are coming up to him when he's shaking.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I think
all of you.
Yeah,
give me a lunch money. He just starts going on a rampage, punching nerds.
I think that's true. Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate because, like, take an example like Leonard Nimoy, right? Leonard Nimoy is the most was the most erudite, hippie, intellectual type of person. He is the opposite of a Trekkie. But yet he embraced that. He showed respect for his fans, and he was out there all the time embracing the culture of Star Trek that gave him the opportunity to do what he wanted to do with his life. And
I think you just answered your question. Why Luke Skywalker? It's because Mark Hamill, who is a white man, and they don't like those, has loved Luke Skywalker and Star Wars and the fans so much that he would seemingly was fine with just only being remembered as that.
Yeah.
Even though he's done other great things, he loved. I mean, obviously, you can go watch the interviews. The man was heartbroken what they did to his character.
He was
heartbroken. He was in tears, almost in many of these interviews, and the rage was in it. You could see it. He was enraged and heartbroken by what they did because he loved being Luke. He loved being the hero to an entire multiple generations of young men.
Yeah.
He loved that. I mean, who wouldn't love that? It sounds awesome. And they killed it.
He was constantly
so that's why.
And he was constantly on the convention circuits and constantly showing appreciation to his fans. And of course, the funny thing is that he is an SJW. He is a liberal. Mark Hamill is 100%.
He totally agrees with them on all this stuff, and yet they still destroyed him. Whatever.
You're not safe.
Be a good ally, Mark.
It is a real shame, and it seems like he backpedaled on a lot of those things about people having destroyed his character or anything. I don't know if Disney told him to shut the fuck up. I'm guessing that.
Well, he seems to be a company man. That's fair.
Or is it because he had to spite the right wingers? Because I don't know. Because hating Last Jedi is a right winger thing, apparently.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I love how I've been thrown into the right wing. Am I really right wing? Do you think I'm a overtly conservative right winger?
I think you're too damn liberal. If you want to know.
I think I am. I never said I wasn't. I'm a moderate dude. I'm a classical.
I'm the only of the people who are on here at any kind of regularity. I'm the only actual right winger. I'm the only one who's not a liberal, but because the left has gone so completely evil, like it's beyond madness. They're just evil at this point.
We just seem like right wingers by comparison.
We're allies because our enemy's so monstrous is really the only thing, and because the right wing and the middle can typically get along because we want the same thing. Whereas the left wing wants to dominate everything. Most right wingers don't want that. Even like authoritarian right wingers don't want that. They want to have control over certain aspects, but other than that, they want to leave you alone. Even freaking Hitler wasn't a totalitarian. He was a massive authoritarian, but he wasn't Stalin.
That's true. They don't understand the subtlety of the difference, dude.
I am Hitler, but I'm not ridiculous.
That's true. It's true, though, right? But no, I mean, I certainly, I'm married with kids, and I am a business owner, so I certainly have some conservative views. But I'm more of a libertarian. I think let people be free to do what they want to do. However, Booster, it is. This is the issue, though, where they're so extreme that we're all right wing in their eyes, and it's just sad because Mark is being swallowed up by his own people. But anyway, moving on. Oh my God, this guy pisses people.
Oh boy, Booster, it's all you. Go.
All right, baby. Crack snuckles, strokes here, rubs nipples. Glad takes offense to Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special, claims the comedian's brand has become synonymous with ridiculing trans people.
Good.
Yeah. Well, there's so
someone's got to do it.
I mean,
somebody's got to do it.
Way too easy of a target.
Yeah, I know, right?
And if it's anyone, I'm glad it's Dave Chappelle. Now, talking about liberals. Talking about liberals. Ruffy Roo. Dave Chappelle is super liberal, right? Would have voted Hillary, would have voted Joe Biden.
Oh yeah, it's all about Black Lives Matter. He's not on your side if that's what you think.
He's not shy about hating the whites. However, I think he's admitted it himself that part of the trans thing is that he's kind of jealous that trans people have gone ahead a lot quicker than black people ever did.
Well, yeah, but see, now that's the problem in his head, and with so many of them, black people have had the opportunity to go ahead for a very long time. The problem is they don't step forward.
You're not allowed to tell them that. Even though we all know that's the truth.
It is the truth, right? Everything's been set up for them. Talk about privilege. If you're a black person, you have every privilege in the world. So many things.
You brought it up perfectly. You brought it up perfectly. Korea. Korea was a third world country 60, 70 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, they were.
And that's about the same amount of time as the Civil Rights Act. And supposedly that was, the good thing for the black community. And yet, look at Korea, look at South Korea, and look at them. Who's doing better? Like, it's not even. Nobody could even argue that South Korea is in a better place because the Korean people stepped up. That's why
they did.
And a lot of the people in his community don't want to. But this particular issue is one that has started to make them, because they are very much against this nonsense, and they see a lot of the ones that are really intelligent understand that they've been being conditioned, largely as the guinea pigs of it, for the new male, right? The effeminate male.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And it's all over. Like so many like the black rappers, or the black pop stars, or whatever, are extremely effeminate. And even the actors, they're forced to do effeminate things on camera, or be cowardly or weak, or those are the ones who are promoted and put in front. They're propped up because that's what they want. They want to take the group of people that have the highest testosterone on the planet, which is black men, and feminize them, because they're easier to control that way. That's why. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with anything other than that. It's about power and control.
Yeah.
And that's why you see like this little Nas X guy getting promoted all over the place when he's literally he's disgusting, and nobody actually likes to watch that except for weird white liberals who, for some reason, just love to watch men be women. Everybody else is just like, unless you're doing it comedically, we're just like, Yeah. We don't. That's not appealing to us.
Yeah.
And black men, especially, like Mr. Chappelle, who lives in my state, I could drive to his house in an hour. Actually, I know right where he lives.
Well, don't bother.
I'm not going to. But I do know where he lives. He lives on a farm outside of Dayton, I believe.
Nice.
And hour and a half. I think that getting out of that California nonsense has helped him be able to stand up against narratives that 20 years ago, he wouldn't even have dared to.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing, because we need people like him who are unafraid and unapologetic, and who say things like, I guess they got mad at me on Twitter, but I didn't give a fuck because Twitter's not a real place. Yes, Dave! Say this more to more people.
That was brilliant quote.
Yeah, and keep in mind that he was run out of I'm surprised he even came back. He was run out of the business by Oprah and Bill Cosby and people like that, because he was making fun of black people and they didn't like it, right? And he was threatened and pushed out. But he came back with a storm, so good on him for that. And keep in mind, I don't know if you can find a comedian who is not a libertarian. It kind of just fits in their mindset. There's no way for them not to.
A real comedian, a funny one, anyway. One who's good at their job.
Well, no, you know what I mean.
Chappelle is hilarious, and the new special is very funny as well.
He is funny.
Oh, he's always been hilarious.
He's a bigot, but he's funny, and that's okay.
I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine with that, because he doesn't hide it. He wears it right on his sleeve, and he's funny with it. So you know what? Hey, you want to call white people shit? At least be funny when you do it. If you're not being funny, I don't want to hear it.
Well, you think Eddie Murphy wasn't a bigot? You think Chris Rock wasn't a bigot?
Of course they are, and they're open with it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's why I have no problem with it. We need to get back to a society where people are just allowed to not like each other. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to fall apart as a human being if somebody doesn't like you.
I saw something this weekend. It just made me. I just laughed out loud. Thundero has said, I tend to watch things that are banal.
No.
And yes. And my wife agrees with you 100%. She thinks it's boring as hell. But I was just, I grew up with horses and stuff like that. So I watch horse videos every now and then. And I was just kind of checking out the new techniques they're using for colt starting, which is very different than they did when I was a kid. I was just watching that, and they had this old cowboy. I mean, this ancient cowboy. He must have been near 80, and he's still doing his cowboy thing. And he was just showing how he starts colts. Starting a colt is just taking a young horse, and because horses aren't born known how to be a horse from our perspective, right? You have to teach them. Anyway, he was just showing his techniques when they're not using the. They use a lot of pain inducement stuff in the past to kind of quickly train a horse, and it's a much slower to not do it that way, but you get a much better horse if you kind of befriend the horse, right, and work with its instinct. Anyway, I was watching this video of this old cowboy, and he was going on about how he's so irreverent. It's funny, but he was going on because people asked a lot of questions about saddles. He says, "Well, I'm not a saddle maker, but this is what I know," and he was just kind of giving information. And he basically puts down his pad, then his blanket, then his saddle, and he was talking about the pads. He said, "They used to be made of wool, but now they're just these things made in China." On and on and on. And he came over to this other saddle, and he was going on about we got this and the lamb's wool. Oh, it's not really lamb's wool. It's what that stuff from it's communist. And he just kind of continued going on. But his just labeling China as communist stuff was funny as hell the way it came out because it wasn't a crack. He wasn't trying to be funny. It was just truth. Oh yeah, I guess you had to be there. But God, it made me laugh, dude. It was funny, funny, funny. You guys don't care about horses at all, do you? Not even a
I've
little.
worked with horses, Chesters.
Oh, awesome! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What did you do with them?
Mostly picked up after their shit.
Oh well, that's got to get done too. Got to muck the
Yeah.
stalls and all that kind of stuff. I've done
You ever
that
had a
a
horse
lot.
shit right in front of you, right after you were done picking up its other shit?
Oh yes, dude, I've
Oh,
mucked
that's on
many
purpose.
a stall.
Don't get it mistaken.
Yeah,
that's intentional.
how
That
you
horse
know.
did that.
He's like, yeah, pick that up too, bitch.
No, they're like that, dude. Horses,
Bastards.
if you give them an inch, they will take it. You got to
Yeah, they're
stay on
bastards.
top of
They've
it.
got a lot. They've got a lot more than an inch, Chester.
Yes, I know, but no,
Ugh.
they will do that. Horses, you always have to be the alpha with the horse, and you can never let
Yes.
it slip. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're more like rabbits, right? They're very finicky creatures,
Mm.
right? They're not like dogs or cats where you can be very demanding, like a pack leader or something. You gotta be careful with a horse, or you spook them quite easily.
Yeah,
But you
no,
still gotta lead.
it's true.
They're fascinating creatures. You gotta treat them differently than you do with a dog or a cat.
No, you absolutely do. That's true. Like a good example is you can have a horse that's perfect in the field. It does everything it's supposed to do. Everything's great, but yet in the stall, when you bring in food, it could get a little nippy or pushy and kind of push you out of the way because you'll make a mistake where you'll just kind of drop the food in and walk away. And what the horse thinks is, "Oh yeah, you get off my food, bitch." That's what that's what happens. So you have to always
They will boss you around.
They
if you
will.
let them.
Yeah. So you have to, when you're feeding a horse, you always have to, you have some call or some sound or however you trained it to make the horse go to the back of the stall. I'm in charge. Put the food in, then it's allowed to come up. But if you get lazy about it, just dumping the food in, that horse thinks that it's pushed you off of its food, and therefore it has a dominance in that situation. Because a horse is always looking to become the alpha, and you can never let it happen. So. Anyway, horses. I don't know. Let's get off this subject.
How do you get to horses?
Because of the old dude, his communist comment, it just made me laugh.
Anyway,
It was funny.
before you swap topics, just because
Alright.
go back to there because there was a very important thing that Dave Chappelle said during this last special, right? And he was discussing the Me Too movement, and he was saying that it wasn't enough for these people to ride the bus and then complain about it later, right? Dave Chappelle said he left the bus and he left $50 million on the table because of it. Right? He just simply said no to the money and to what the bullshit they wanted and walked away.
He did.
And I think that's part of why they hate him.
Maybe. Yeah. But they also really get angry most at black people who don't walk the line, right? Because they think everything they're doing is for the black person. They think, look, we're helping you, you useless thing. Get in line, agree with us. Look at what we're doing for you, you pathetic thing. Because that's how they look at it. I mean, and it's ironic to me that we're seeing all this pushback coming out of the black community now, which is good. But forever they keep voting and supporting the group of people who have been racist to them since day one.
Yes.
Right? And hopefully it'll get to the point that we have this radical pushback, because something to keep in mind, I know we're not extremely happy with the Republican Party as far as Americans are concerned, but the American Party is changing. The Republican Party is becoming more of the Libertarian Party day by day. Good or bad, that is happening. So we'll see.
As long as they stop being feckless.
Because that is the word, Booster. Very good.
Yes.
You get 10 points. Write that down.
It's on my word of the day calendar, Chester.
It's the perfect word for the situation with Republicans, dude. Feckless. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, This is a joyous news. You're all going to be very happy about this.
Joyous. What do we have
Oh,
here?
God.
Ghostbusters Afterlife director Jason Reitman says upcoming sequel will expand on 2016 reboot story theme.
Okay.
Skip.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't noticed, a lot of reviewers, ones that have been kind of complaining about a lot of the nonsense we've been seeing the past decade or so in Hollywood, have been really excited about Dune and the Afterlife, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yep.
They've been really excited. Oh, we got our fingers crossed, right? Well, I've never bit that bullet because I knew from the beginning.
Don't get hyped.
Don't get hyped. And
Silly.
it is silly, especially the simple fact that as soon as I saw kids were in it, nope, right? And the girl here, Spengler's daughter, granddaughter, which doesn't really fit the timeline. Spengler would have had to made a baby immediately, and then his kid to have babies immediately. It doesn't really fit the timeline, but whatever. The whole movie's about the girl, of course it is, and he's basically he really enjoyed the 2016 reboot of Ghostbuster, and he felt that that was more of a theme of family, whereas before Ghostbusters just been about a bunch of dudes wanting to make a business, as if that's a bad thing. So it's all about family, the Spengler family. And he said, when I had my first vision, I saw a girl standing in a field, and eventually it came to me that she was a genius and she was special. And then, of course, she had to be a Spengler. That's what this says. This is what this guy says. So that's what you're getting. This story is all about her. It's all about female empowerment. It's all about the future is female. Of course, it is, right? And the sad thing here, and we keep saying this, is it's unfortunate that that has become a negative thing. Because when did we ever have a problem with women in stories, or women being successful, or women anything? Never. But now we have to, because everything is being thrown down our throat that it's female only. And that is the saddest result of all this stuff that's going on. Because I knew as soon as I saw it, I saw the boy had a little that kid from Stranger Things. Had a love interest, and of course it's a black girl, because you can't have a white person that is with a white person these days. You can't have that, right? As soon as I saw all that nonsense in that trailer, I knew immediately it's just another woke piece of shit coming out of Hollywood. And it's unfortunate, because if this was made 20, 30 years ago, it would probably been fun. Good or not, I don't know, but it probably would have been fun. But now it is an agenda, and he's telling you right here that there's an agenda. It was written with an agenda, and that there's a point to it. It's not just a fun little happy story. It's an agenda, and that's what keeps screwing up these movies. And and it's sad, because a lot of these dudes who have their fingers crossed hoping for this, I think they're going to be badly disappointed, dude.
Me too. I think it was kind of it was a big red flag when they decided to make it a kids movie.
Yes, it shouldn't be.
And it should absolutely should not be. I mean, not that kids can't enjoy it. It should be enjoyable by children, but it shouldn't be a movie designed for kids, and that's what this is. This is a movie designed for, like 10-year-olds, basically, by all accounts, from what we've seen of it, especially with the people who are starring in it. And that is a serious problem. The original Ghostbusters was a whole bunch of top-level adult comics, or at least a couple of them, at the time, making it as the stars of that movie with Aykroyd and Bill Murray.
It was just a vehicle for them. Yeah.
Exactly, especially. And then obviously you had a great director behind it and good writing and all these things. But it wasn't designed to be a child's movie. It was just designed to be one of their comedies. They had a whole bunch very similar of semi-family comedies they had released in that time frame, which was one of the best eras for comedy of all time, actually, about
Vacation.
75 to 85. You had crazy funny stuff coming out that still to this day you can just pop in and just laugh. And then obviously it was a little bit actiony too, but at the core of it is a comedic drama. Yeah. And I think the reason why that's such a red flag is because right there You miss the whole tone of the first movie. And this is kind of why people dislike the second movie so much, because it feels so much different from the first movie. Now, some people say it's basically the same story, and that's true. It is functionally basically the same story, but that doesn't mean it's told the same way. And the fact that it's told with a clearly more leaning towards a family bend than the first one that was just kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
It feels lesser. And that's one of the reasons why I think most people revere the first one so much, because it was just special.
Oh, it's
It
lightning
was
in a
so
bottle.
special. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you could easily do that again. I think a good example of, and this would be a little bit too adult for a Ghostbusters movie, but the first Deadpool movie. That movie was not supposed to be a success, and it was. It was a massive success. For a time, it was the biggest R-rated movie, I think, of all time, as far as box office. And that wasn't supposed to happen. And it's because there's a massively underserved market right now of the just adult male comedy. They simply, I can't think of the last one I've seen. There's all kinds of rom-coms. There's all kinds of chick movie comedies that come out. That's what Ghostbusters 2016 was.
Yeah. Which is fine.
And yeah, it's fine. But where's the male ones? Where's the comedies like The Hangover, right? That are obviously directed at a male audience and that have male humor. And maybe they're not the best movies of all time, but at least they friggin' existed. Like, where are they? Where is these movies? And I think that's why this movie should have been a big red flag to Ghostbusters fans, but they're traumatized in a more literal sense from 2016, and that they're just like, just give me something that looks like it. And that's what happened with Force Awakens. Give me something that looks like it, and I'll be happy.
Well, that's why I titled today Inclusion, right?
Yep.
Because it's not inclusive.
Right.
That's the issue. But anything on this booster before I move on?
I just find it very fascinating that there's this weird trend with 80s movies that they had one really good movie that people loved, and they've tried to turn it into a franchise and have failed utterly every time.
They do.
Yep.
They do. Yeah. And
Like, sometimes they'll get a good second movie like Terminator or Aliens, but then after that, everything else is just dog crap.
yeah, no, the second Ghostbuster movie was nowhere near as good as the first one.
Yeah.
And you can go into analyzing why that was, and that's fine, but it doesn't matter. Ghostbusters itself, the original one, is near perfect movie.
Yeah.
It just hits on every cylinder, dude. And you can't recreate that especially if you have an agenda, because I tell you what, those guys didn't have an agenda other than trying to make some money and be funny. That's the only agenda they had.
The closest thing they had to an agenda was fuck the government.
Maybe a little bit.
That's about the biggest agenda they had there, other than just making money and making a fun movie.
Yes, man.
There's a reason. There's a reason some movies have stood the test of time and will forever stand. Ghostbusters will be watched probably, if the world still exists, in 50 years from now. People will look back on that movie. People who are long dead, from a generation that's long dead. And it'll be one of those movies that becomes legendary. It already is legendary. Like, Gone with the Wind is a good example. A movie that's never going. They're trying, but it's never going anywhere. It's Wizard of Oz. It's just too legendary. Yeah, but they didn't really. They think they did. Some things will just won't die. Like John Wayne's career. It just would. It's never going anywhere. And that, I think Ghostbusters is one of those things. And I think the fact that they keep trying to reiterate it instead of what they should do is just ape it and just copy it not wholesale, don't Force Awakens it, but the tone and the tenor of it and who it's aimed at and its style could be easily replicated.
Yeah.
They just refuse to do it.
Refuse to do it, yeah. And that's the funny thing about John Wayne. John Wayne, in order to cancel John Wayne, you have to cancel America. They've tried. They're trying. Yeah,
they're working on it.
They're working on it. But anyway, let's move on here. Oof.
What do we have here? Report: Disney to roll out a new on-set COVID-19 sticker system to distinguish between vaccinated and unvaccinated employees.
Yeah. Now,
this couldn't be compared to little dewy stars.
Now, I hope they're yellow. I really hope they're yellow.
They are.
Please be yellow.
Please
be yellow.
And vaguely star-shaped. That would be perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, the funny thing with this, and there's lots of more and more people every day pointing this out. If the vaccine works, then what do you care about? If it doesn't work, then why are you forcing people to get something that doesn't work? Right? This is the
But it
conundrum.
only works if everyone gets it.
Yeah. Why does that matter? Especially seeing as we know this is an immunizer, this is not a vaccine, it's not being very effective whatsoever. So, what's the deal? Well, we've talked about that many times here. What the real deal is, but these people are pushing on this hard, 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 and they're getting so many mouthpieces to join them. As an example,
Uh, like this woman's fucking opinion matters.
right?
Ava DuVernay says her big frustration with pandemic protocols is dealing with anti-vaxxers.
Yeah. Now, this lady
Who the
has
fuck
had
is this woman? She
well,
had one movie and it tanked.
yeah, a failed director. That's who this woman is. And of course, she's got the Eternals, not the Eternals, the New Gods coming eventually, I guess, which is going to tank as well, I am sure, because this woman's mind is in the wrong place. But yeah, okay, who cares? No one cares what this woman has to say. How about this guy, though?
All right, what do we have here? Okay, well this is another guy I actually quite like. The Mandalorian actor Giancarlo Esposito says unvaccinated people are saying "fuck you" to all you other human beings.
Oh,
Well, yeah,
I guess. Yeah, not
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
But now here we
I
have
am.
a. Yeah,
Welcome.
it seems so, especially because it's so dumb. But here we have a guy who probably most of us didn't know before he was in Breaking Bad, which he was awesome in. And then, of course, him in The Mandalorian, which he's also awesome in. He's a good actor. We tend to like him. He does a good job. But here he is putting that appreciation that he's built up and just burning it to the ground instantly by joining a side. Now, did he have a choice in this matter? Is he simply trying to save his career? We know all of that's going on. But here's a person that a lot of people probably do care of what he's going to say more than that other lady. But this whole vaccine thing it's very, it's a very pale, veiled attack. There's no teeth behind it. We know it's complete nonsense, but yet they keep pushing this silly, silly narrative, and they're just doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down day after day after day, I'm kind of curious what do they think the end result's going to be? Where do they think they're going to get to? Because all you're doing is just pissing people off, right?
We're gonna go. Thank you, Massa. We didn't know any better, Massa.
Maybe.
Oh, Massa, you so good to me, Massa.
But the problem is they've created an out against their own stuff. If you haven't noticed in America, I don't know how it's going in New Zealand, but you actually can make more money sitting at home collecting unemployment. You can go getting a job right now if you're like a blue collar
Well,
worker level.
you could. They finally shut that program down.
Oh,
It ended last month,
okay.
and many Republican states shut down the extra money you could get. So they
Good.
basically, like Ohio, took it to you wouldn't get any extra money, but you could still get basically what would be your basic unemployment that you would have got from the state, but you didn't get the bonus money. So it was designed to incentivize people to go back to work. The problem is they didn't. They still didn't go back to work because that's not why they're not going back to work. The reason they're not going back to work is a whole cornucopia of shit that's been thrown into a blender all at once. Some of it is stupid government policy, but it's also because they got a taste of what it's like to not struggle paycheck to paycheck, and they liked it. So they're looking for better jobs, and there are better jobs out there that are paying quite a bit.
Yeah.
So these low-paying, jobs that they were kind of stuck in, that they kind of got unstuck forcibly, they don't want to go back to them. I bet you if I had to guess, that's about 60% of the people. The reason why they can't get people to return to the workforce is because they didn't blow all that extra money they got. They saved it. So now they have a little bit of a nest egg they can sit on while they try and find some way to keep that level of income or similar level of income because they liked the fact that they weren't struggling.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I don't hate them for that. I think that's reasonable. But really the problem we have is because we have such an incestuous relationship between corporate lobbyists and the government, and the insistence on bringing in cheap labor and the insistence on not raising wages in places where they could definitely be raised with very little impact to the overall economy, you have these massive staffing shortages because people don't want to work for that anymore. They don't want to go and work at McDonald's for $12 an hour because working at McDonald's sucks. That's why. And everybody knows it. It's not a mystery. Everybody knows working at McDonald's sucks. And they don't want to do it for such a little amount. That's why some McDonald's are offering like $18, $19 an hour just to get people to come work there.
Yeah.
But and then those people sit back and say, see, you could have offered me more money. You just wouldn't. You just refuse to do it. And they're not wrong. So it's a multifaceted problem that isn't caused by capitalism, because capitalism would have solved this problem by increasing wages, because the people do deserve to be paid more, a lot of them, not all jobs, most McDonald's jobs probably not, but you get my point.
Yeah.
And this hasn't happened in this country. We've really been in stagflation since the 80s, to be honest. We just didn't call it that.
That's true, because we don't have a free market capitalism to go forward.
Correct.
And if you did, this all would solve itself within a couple of years.
It would have been done. It would have been done already. It would have been solved, and everybody'd be happy. It was starting to correct under Trump, because he was pulling back the corporate mandates and things, the regulations, how much he had sliced it up, and did lower their taxes some, and he lowered my taxes. So I don't know how people say he didn't do nothing for me. Did for me. I got way more back in taxes last year than I ever did.
I only pay taxes. I don't get back. Yeah.
Well, but my point is, it was starting to work. For the first time in like 30 years, we had significant wage growth among the middle class. I think it was like 8% in his 4 years, something like that. That's a lot in 4 years. That's quite a bit.
Oh, he did a good job. Yeah, he did a good job.
That was starting to correct, and the reason why it's not correcting now is because, one, some people are protesting. They're refusing to work under these vaccine mandates, like what's going to happen here and what's happening with these airlines. And two, some people have a nest egg that they've built up, whether it be from the government handing out money or they just had savings because they earned it, and they don't want to go back and work in this environment. You have employers versus employee all over the country now because of government bullshit. And you have all these Karens running around who are insane because the media's got them so afraid of catching COVID that they're apoplectic with their fear. And it's not a fun environment to work where you have to deal with the public at all. It never really was. But holy shit, try doing it now.
Yeah.
And then you have to wear, in a lot of places, you have to wear a damn mask all day, even if you're vaccinated. And it's like, screw it. Why would somebody go walk into that willingly unless they absolutely had to?
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's true. And there are two issues that are going on that I think are quite interesting. One, that you're getting a lot of people push back saying, well, did you think that these extra taxes and stuff you're going to do, that the companies are going to keep it? Of course they put it on us, and that's what's causing inflation to go up. And people, how stupid the Democrats are for thinking it would work like that. I don't think they assumed it was going to work like that at all. I think it's exactly what they wanted.
Yep.
First of all, so don't mistake that. And the other interesting thing that's going on, and I think Florida is a perfect example with DeSantis, that you're starting to get a lot of states starting to push back and say, no, we're not going to do what the federal government says. We're going to make ourselves a sanctuary this or a sanctuary that, which is funny because the left are the ones that started that whole sanctuary shit, right? But here's the thing that I think a lot of Americans don't realize. America is not a democracy. It is a republic. And the states are sovereign. They don't have to follow federal law beyond the Bill of Rights. They do not.
Well, beyond the things that are directly the Bill of Rights and beyond the things that are directly granted to the government under actual federal law, not federal code, federal law, which is basically the Constitution and a few other offshoots of it. So they do have some things they have to follow the federal government on, but most things they don't. That's what people don't like. Some people even say, and there's good precedent for it, that they could legally mandate vaccination. A lot of states could, because the federal government can't, but the states probably could.
Yeah.
And the only problem is a lot of the states have their own constitutions, which would run into that. Yeah.
That's true.
But my point is you're correct. There's way the country was designed, and the best way to run it, and honestly, it's probably the best form of government you could create, is to have small, they were supposed to be small, states, by small population wise, that join together into a larger whole. But then you have smaller government that you can actually directly interact with, because it's unrealistic to believe that most people can interact with Washington, right? Even with modern technology, it'd be too much noise. There's no way to make that make sense. So what do you do? What's the solution to that? Well, then don't interact with Washington. The idea is you didn't need to. You either had representatives or you had local government that actually affected your life more than Washington was supposed to. And that's what we're seeing now. We're actually seeing a return to federalism, which is a good thing. So the left actually made a mistake. They by trying to be petulant with their sanctuary states and all that nonsense. All they did is return federalism back to the forefront of the way the country's run. So now red states are like, okay, we'll do it too. Hey, we're sanctuary for this, and you had counties being sanctuary for the Second Amendment and all this stuff.
Right.
I love it. I support it wholeheartedly.
And the thing that's interesting to me that's going on, and it's a great thing to see actually, is the fact that the reason why so many states follow with these federal endeavors, let's just call them that, is because the way the federal government forces these states to abide by their whatever law is by saying, okay, well, if you follow this law that we just threw out, then we'll give you federal tax money. If you don't, we'll take it away. This is how they've been manipulating things for a long time. And what you're seeing right now is a lot of these so-called red states are saying, well, yeah, we need the money, but fuck off.
Yep.
Right? And that's wonderful.
Some things are more important.
That is a wonderful
some things are more important than money.
Yeah.
The other thing is you have people who will say things like, well, these red states, a lot of them are, they're basically welfare states because the blue states support them, blah, 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 which isn't really true. But let's say it's wholly true. That's 100% a true statement.
There is some truth to that.
Yes. So let's say tomorrow we have a national divorce, hypothetically. There's nothing that would stop this new union of red states, or this new union of states. They don't have to be red states, just new unions of states, because that's what would happen. States would form different unions, from doing exactly what the federal government does and just print money on debt. There's literally nothing to stop that from happening. It's already been, we've been doing it for 100 years. The country was founded that way, and there's no reason to suggest that they couldn't do that themselves. So this idea that if you see people talk about it, that if the country were to split up, the red states would go broke in a year, that's just not true. that's just silly talk. You're being silly now.
Especially seeing as, most of your resources are coming out of those red states.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
And they could, the thing is, the reality, it's not even a state-to-state thing. It's a city versus countryside. And if the countryside truly revolted, they don't need a gun. They don't need a single gun.
No.
All they have to do is just stop giving the resources. Very simply. Yeah.
And they know that. That's why they do everything they can to keep that from happening. Yeah. This country's so massive. Hell, states are so massive. Like Texas, Ohio's big as shit compared to other countries in the world.
That's true.
If the rural counties decided they had enough and they shut the cities down, the cities are done. They're shut down. Like, maybe they could fly planes in, but that's about it. That's what you'd have to do. They'd have to somehow get flights in.
That's true.
Otherwise, there'd be no way for them to function.
Yeah.
And that's the reality that we're in. That's the reality that this stuff is bringing to the forefront. This stuff like with Disney and all these places, people are starting to realize at a more local level is where the real power lies. The federal government's power is only in manipulating the local governments to do what they want.
It is.
And
through bribery, basically.
Yes, through bribery, coercion, basically extortion. And that's the only way they can do it. They don't have the power, whether literally or practically or what have you, to enforce their will.
Yeah.
They couldn't even enforce their will on people living in caves with 12th century ideological philosophies. Yeah. Like, you think they can enforce their will on modern Americans if they stop consenting? No, of course they can't.
That's what it'll come down to. And keep in mind that although the federal taxes, like the IRS, are enforced, so don't stop paying your taxes because they will get your ass happily.
Yes.
It is technically unconstitutional, and secondly, not even ratified. It was not ratified by a large enough percentage of states, but yet it's been the law for over 100 years. And that's the reality with taxation. And I think you might see with a lot of these states pushing back hard, you might see some real hard pushback against federal taxation. Because what I've seen a
Good.
lot, and I agree, is the fact that a lot of people are starting to say, why should I pay taxes for stuff that not only doesn't help me, but actually hinders me? And that is a
Yes.
fair point, dude. That is a fair
Well,
point.
the other thing that could happen, and it hasn't happened yet, but I think it will. Uh, the federal taxes are collected by employers, right? Income tax. Most of
Mhm.
them are collected through employment,
Yeah.
which is then collected through the state and sent to the IRS or sent to the federal government. A state could easily just tell them to stop, and then the employer would have to make a decision: do they listen to their home state or do they listen to the feds? But they could easily do that. Could happen. There's nothing stopping a state from doing that. Just saying, okay, we're not sending this money off to you anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're going to
Yeah.
do everything they can to try and force that to happen, and up into including force. But that could easily happen, and I think it will happen. And I don't think the federal government will have the power to stop it. I know people like to think, our government is all powerful and they would never surrender. They don't have a choice if enough people just say that's it.
Yeah.
It's
And
just that simple.
And don't misunderstand me, because I do think the federal government have access to tax money is important for
Yes.
infrastructure, schooling systems, military things like that. I know, Booster. I understand, Booster. However, you're not getting what you're paying for. You're not. The infrastructure is an absolute mess. The education system is a disaster, and the military is being dismantled. So, what are you getting for your tax money? And I understand this is boring the shit out of Booster, and I would love to know what New Zealand does,
Boring
but
the shit
unfortunately,
out
you
of
can't give
everyone
me that
else.
information.
Oh, I can't? Okay.
Well, you said you couldn't.
I'm not allowed to. Jacinda will kill me.
Oh, fair enough. That's fair. That's fair. We can move on though. But it is, and it's interesting to me too that they really seem to be trying to mold DeSantis into the next president. Do you think that's what they're doing?
Probably. I don't know about him. I don't know about him. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to today's last story and make Booster happy. Go ahead, Booster.
Okay. Hellraiser movie cast transgender actor Jamie Clanton to play Pinhead. That seems reasonable. Hellraiser's disgusting, so they should cast a monster to play a monster. There you
There you
go.
Oh my god!
There you go. Good on you, Booster.
Is that too much?
No, no.
That was just the right amount.
Now, I know before I get into this article, some of you are going to say, Chester, there was a comic a long time ago that made this what it is. And yes and no. I know there was a comic book, but let me put it out for, spoilers for those of you who don't know. In the original Hellraiser, little short story that got turned into a book, and then, of course, all the media that's come since, the daughter in the first story, who ended up, she was kind of the central pivot of the story, right? The story is more about the dude and the lady and the betrayal and the Hellraiser and all that kind of stuff. However, that girl, throughout the series of movies and comic books and stuff, she ends up taking over for Pinhead, because Pinhead feels like he wants to go back and be a human again, and she, of course, in the end betrays him. But okay, so that is the arc. We start with this girl, the daughter, and eventually she becomes the new Pinhead. That's kind of the arc of the entire Hellraiser universe, right? Fair enough. That's not what they're doing here. If that's what they were doing, fair enough. But that's not what they're doing. We're simply getting a female Pinhead, right? They're not doing that arc. Which, if they did, fine. But we're not. We're getting whatever this is. Is that a woman? I guess that's that. I don't know what that is. I guess it's a transgender. Those eyes.
Looks like Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Well, those eyes are pretty. This person is definitely murdered somebody. But which is perfect for Pinhead. But now the funny thing for me though, Booster.
Murderers should play murderers.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah.
But
It's inclusive.
Well, it is inclusive, but the thing is,
That's
you
why
know,
Matthew Broderick should have more roles of murderers.
he should. Yeah, that's fair. But here's the thing, though. We have the idea of a female becoming Pinhead, but it's not. It's a dude playing Pinhead as a female.
I'm dying. Oh, fuck me.
Now, can we take the hair off this person? Can we imagine this person as Pinhead? I wonder. What do you think about this dude playing Pinhead there, Thundero?
I agree with Booster. I think his original assessment was correct. Find a monster to be a monster.
Yeah,
I
fair
think
enough.
that's accurate, and I think it's it's long since time that normal people stop kowtowing to this madness. It's a delusion. It's not real. And the fact that so many are willing to go along with it makes me believe that Jesse Kelly's right, that the system could come out tomorrow and demand you call the sky green even though it's clearly blue, and most people would go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the few things that unites across the political spectrum is this sort of dishonesty that is being forced to be accepted on a society-wide basis.
It's
That no one,
and it's the Emperor's New Clothes.
yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is, and everybody knows it. Everyone knows it, and everybody who says they don't is lying. And I think this fad is coming to an end. I genuinely do. I'm not saying these people are going to go away. I don't want that to happen. I don't want a genocide of them or anything. I don't want to get it twisted.
No, that'd be
But I
awful.
think the fad of it, the obsession that you see in so much of these circles with it, I think it's done. I don't think it's going to last much longer, at least not in the West. It might. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't. I think there's too many commoners, normal people, normies as we call them, who are now seeing this stuff and are completely repulsed by it.
Yeah. Booster, percentages that we get a bold shot.
41%.
Oh, really? You don't have much faith in it. There are percentages we get a bold shot.
Fundaro got it. Fundaro got it. That was a layered joke. That was a layered
I will
joke.
have to say that Booster's layered joke is outdated. It's now 52%. And I say 52%.
Whoa! Living on a prayer.
Why did Bon Jovi come to this? What the hell's going on? What is the 41% joke? I don't get.
It's the suicide rates of trans people.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought it was a little higher than that.
It is. It's 52% now.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, and all you're going to do with this, even though I understand they did the comic book, you're seeing the panels right here of that girl's journey. They're not doing that girl, unfortunately, it looks like. Who knows what it will see in the end. But the thing is, you're acting as if these comics were popular, right? And your fan base that loves Pinhead, you call it Hellraisers, but they like Pinhead. That's the popular character that came out of that. Making that character female is going to drive a lot of your fans away. It just is. And this movie franchise has been going downhill for decades, going downhill, and you're just going to put the final nail in the coffin is what you're going to do, because unless you can pick up a new audience, which we know you're not going to, this has been proven over the past decade that that's not what's going to happen. You're going to bomb it. So you're wasting money, you're wasting time. Even though we got Clive Barker in on the production, you're wasting time. And I find it hilarious that we're not getting a female, we're getting a dude playing a female.
Isn't it shocking that this push of acceptance has only raised the suicide rate, not lowered it? Isn't it a shocking thing?
Not really. No.
Not really, I suppose, but because what they're trying to do, what I assume they're trying to do, is lower it, right, with everything they're doing, but it's just going higher.
Yeah. Well,
It
because
reminds me about trying to save a person who's drowning. You don't, because they drag you under with them.
that's right. That's right. And by putting all this light on it and creating all these opportunities, you're not dealing with the core problem at hand, which is psychological. These people have mental issues, and psychologists have always put them in that category. I know they've lightened the words recently, but they do. They have mental issues, and what you need to do is try to help them get beyond those. But that's not what we're doing. We're reinforcing them. Of course the percentage of suicide is going up. Of course it has. Because you're not directly dealing with the problem. You're just falsely reinforcing it. So it's sad, really. It's monstrous if you really, really want to look at it. The medical community is dropping the ball in a huge way, and that would, in my opinion, be malpractice, wouldn't it? Are they
Yeah.
not betraying the Hippocratic Oath? It seems like they are.
I think a good way to put it is lies are like cake.
Ooh.
Cake's good. Everybody likes cake, but you can't live off of it. Eventually, you got to get those nutrients in there. You got to get some of that truth. Got to get some of that steak, some of that potatoes.
I can try, Booster. I can
You,
try
well,
cake.
you can get diabetes as well.
Hey now. Yeah, but no, I'm not surprised by
I
that
like
number
cake.
whatsoever, Booster. It
And
makes
fried
perfect
chicken.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
It's
yeah.
actually the truth of it is it's very sad. Because we're supposed to be a society that values helping people who need it. Charitable society. It's a Christian tenet charity, and by coddling a delusion, which is what it is, you're not helping that person. You're just not. You're doing the opposite. You're harming them. You're actively harming them because they're not living in reality. They're not living with the truth, and that's why they end up unfortunately harming themselves because they look in the mirror and they know they're living a lie, and nobody wants to live a lie, not
I
forever.
agree, Roger. Yeah, that's true. No, no, no. I agree. And of course, keep in mind the whole Hellraiser thing is very much based upon sadomasochism. And it makes sense. And I guarantee you that what they're going to do in this storyline, instead of being the girl, she's going to merge with Pinhead. They're going to become a singular being, right? And I'm sure that's what they're going to do. And I guarantee you're going to get a bold shot, and it's going to be gratuitous as hell.
Nice.
Nice. All righty then. Goodness gracious. Why are we banning Josh for life? What has he done now?
Because you made a
This
very
thing.
dated
Oh.
Portal reference.
Oh, how dare you, sir? How dare you? Anyway, that's what I got for today, guys. Interesting conversations. We kind of all over the place today, as usual. But yeah, the fragility of inclusion. It is. It's comedic, really. It's
Mhm.
like, I don't know. We have a term these days. What's the word we use these days? Something to do with clowns.
Clown World.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the worst part about Clown World is clowns are kind of like cake. They're fine for a while.
Yeah.
But then you just have clowns, and you're like, what the fuck do I do with a clown?
And they get annoying.
They
do.
got their horn and they beep it at you, they honk it at you. You're just like,
Like,
just
can we have a serious discussion? They're like, woo!
woohoo!
That's right.
It's
And-
ridiculous.
It's not. Yeah.
And of course, Booster has real problems because over in Australia, his neighbor, friendly
Mhm.
neighbor, they're all about the shark clowns, and that's just the biggest nightmare that could ever exist for old Booster Boy.
Right. A shark
That's
clown. What
terrifying.
the shit is that?
I don't know. I
It's-
think he was trying to put on some kind of joke about how I don't like sharks, but
Yes, that was the joke. Didn't work.
not particularly.
Well, you could have
You
helped
tried.
it work.
You
You
could
could
have
have.
made
Now I'm
could
just
have assisted
envisioning.
it.
Now I'm just envisioning King Shark as a clown,
Mm-hmm.
It is.
and
Well, that's
I like
adorable.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be
Yeah.
adorable.
It could be. Yeah, it could be adorable. He was quite adorable, even though he's a monster. That's true. But anyway, moon pies contain 100% of required vitamins and minerals a body needs, Jeff says. Okay, then you get to that. Nevertheless, thank you all very much for coming in here today. Tomorrow, we're doing comic book stuff, and there's a bunch of articles that specifically for comic books that I didn't put into today, so we'll cover those tomorrow. There is some interesting things going on in the comic book world, which is neat because most weeks I have to dig, man, to find comic book stories. But tomorrow will be easier. That's good.
All right.
So already prepared for that, but let's go ahead and get ourselves out of here and let Booster give his final comments.
Oh, well, you notice my new little avatar?
I do.
I got a nice little pixel kiwi now. It's very fun because, I'm launching my gaming series very soon.
Nice.
This Thursday, a Wednesday for you Americans, I'm going to start uploading daily. And it's been a pain. Holy fuck. Do you know how long it takes to render a video?
Yep, I do.
Do you know how long it takes to render 30-minute long videos?
Yep, takes time.
Oh, yeah. I have been a busy lad, right? So if
Yeah.
you guys could help me out as much as you could, support my videos, subscribe, comment is the big one, right? That puts me to the algorithm and all that good stuff. And, and hopefully have a hearty laugh at my complete madness, because these videos are completely fucking mad.
Yeah. Well, when
Um,
you rendered the videos, did you integrate the audio in at the same time?
yes.
Good. There you go. I made that
Don't worry,
mistake
they're all
at first. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry, they're all correct. I have made every possible mistake in the past 6 odd months I've been doing this. I have made every mistake.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. That's learning. That's a
Did you
learning curve,
delete
yeah.
all of it?
No. You
Well,
are
not
getting
every
the
mistake.
mistakes, baby.
Yeah.
You are getting all my mistakes, and I'm calling them videos
There you
and
go.
content. Have fun.
Perfect. No, that's great, man. I look forward to it. So there you go, guys. Wednesday for you Westerners, go over and what's the name of the channel, by the way?
Booster Kiwi.
Just Booster Kiwi. Straightforward.
Mhm.
Easy enough.
And I'm gonna link a subscription link. You can just click that and it subscribes you.
Oh,
There
sweet.
you go, my son.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you very much, Booster. And Thundero takes out of here, man.
I have something very simple that I think everybody should understand. We talked a lot about like charity and things like that, nobility. I wrote this earlier. Extending courtesy to those who have proven they will never reciprocate or who hold ideals utterly repulsive to you, your faith, or your conscience is not nobility. It's wickedness, it's cowardly, and it's weak.
Mm-hmm.
Always stand by what you believe in, and don't allow your empathy, your sympathy, your compassion to override your reason.
That's right. And keep this in mind as I namaste that when when the new movement happens and Thundero becomes the high priest, I'm the deacon of cool. Later.
Namaste.
I do get to become a deacon, right?
Yeah, of course. I think instead of the deacon of cool, we're going to have you be the deacon of saxophones. Yeah.
Emotions.
Yeah. That's